Astrology, an ancient practice that maps the skies, offers a unique perspective on personal identity and destiny through the lens of celestial positions. At the heart of this practice is the birth chart, a cosmic snapshot of the planet's placements at your exact moment of birth. This personalized astrological diagram serves as a celestial blueprint of one's personality, potential, and life path. Understanding your birth chart and astrology. A birth chart, also known as a natal chart, is essentially a graphical representation of where all the major celestial bodies were located in the astrological zone, the zodiac, when you took your first breath. The major components of your birth chart include planets, signs, houses, and aspects, each holding significant insights about different facets of your life. Deciphering the symbols of zodiacs. The zodiac in astrology is a belt in the sky extending about 8 degrees on either side of the ecliptic, the apparent path of the sun across the celestial sphere over the course of a year. This belt is segmented into 12 signs, each marked by a constellation and its associated symbols of zodiacs. These signs provide deep insights into personality traits, motivations, and potential conflicts and compatibilities. The astrological zones and houses. Each birth chart is divided into 12 segments, known as houses, which represent different areas of life. The first house, for example, deals with self-image and approaches to life, while the seventh house pertains to close partnerships and contracts. These houses are influenced by the astrological zone in which they reside, adding another layer of depth to the chart's interpretation. The planets and their influence. In your natal chart, the positions of the planets, including the sun and moon, often called luminaries, reveal much about your character and life tendencies. Each planet governs specific aspects of human expression. Mars, for example, rules energy and aggression, while Venus oversees love and beauty. When analyzing chart astrology compatibility, the interaction between these planetary placements can illuminate potential harmony or conflict in relationships. Astrology horoscope, a daily map. Beyond the natal chart, many turn to their astrology horoscope for a daily reading of celestial influences. This simplified, everyday horoscope interprets the movements of the planets through the signs and their interactions, offering advice and predictions based on this ever-shifting astrological landscape. Free chart astrology, accessing your celestial blueprint. In the digital age, access to one's astrological chart has become more straightforward. Numerous websites and apps offer free chart astrology services where individuals can input their birth details and receive an intricate map of their natal chart. These services often come with brief interpretations, which can be a good starting point for astrology novices. Free horoscope charts and their utility. Similarly, free horoscope charts provide daily, weekly, or monthly readings based on your sun's sign. These are less personalized than birth charts, but can still offer useful general guidance and reflection. Whether you're looking for a quick daily advice or insights into a particular period, these free resources can be incredibly helpful. Exploring chart astrology compatibility. One of the most popular uses of astrology involves analyzing chart compatibility, often sought by those curious about their potential with a partner. By comparing two natal charts, astrologers can assess the fundamental interactions between the individual's planets and houses, predicting potential strengths and challenges in the relationship. In conclusion, whether you're a seasoned astrologer or a curious newcomer, the world of birth charts holds vast potential for deep personal insight and connection. By exploring your natal chart, or even just your daily horoscope astro readings, you engage in an ancient tradition that mirrors the complexity of life and the interconnectedness of all things under the stars. Through the symbols of zodiacs and the intricate web of houses and planetary aspects, astrology continues to fascinate and inspire those who look to the skies for guidance. If you've ever had your chart read or hung out with astrology nerds, you've likely heard about the 12 houses. For many of us, horoscopes are the gateway into greater astrological curiosity. As we begin following them, we become more familiar with and interested in the many moving pieces of our birth charts. You've likely heard about signs and planets, for instance, but what the hell is a house? Each planet, asteroid, or celestial point exists within a house, and that placement offers invaluable insight not just about your own personality, but also how you coexist with the world around you. Moreover, The houses are a roadmap for understanding your past, present, and future. As the planets in the sky move across these domains, different events, both tangible and emotional, are triggered. Each house is associated with a different sign. For instance, the seventh house of partnership is associated with Libra energy. Libra is the sign of relationships and is all about balance, love, and fairness. So it makes sense that it corresponds with partnerships. The birth chart is a snapshot of the sky at your moment of birth. If this all sounds rather extraordinary, well, it is. The houses are truly what makes astrology so spectacular. Each one signifies a component of life, but none of these subsections exist within a silo. The 12 houses also operate as a single unit, a collective that comprises the entire 360-degree wheel. Their geometric rhythm is a symbolic representation of an individual's complete cosmology. To understand the meaning of the houses in your own life, calculate your birth chart by simply plugging your time, date, and location of birth into astrology software, like what Astro.com offers, and follow along below. What are the houses in astrology? The birth chart is divided into 12 equal sections, which comprise the houses. The number 12 surfaces often in astrology. After all, it's a perfect numerical. However, do not get confused, as the houses are not the same as the zodiac wheel, which is based on the sun's yearly rotational movement. Instead, the houses reflect the Earth's own 24-hour rotation around its axis. Accordingly, when reading a birth chart, astrologers fuse these two systems together. Since the houses rotate every 24 hours, it is essential to use your correct time of birth when calculating your chart. Each house represents 2 hours of the sun's apparent movement each day. So when you get your crush's birth time, make sure it's correct. Why is that a big deal? The houses in an astrology chart represent different facets of your life, based on the time and location of birth, and show the gifts or obstacles you will face in this lifetime. Astrologer Lisa Stardust tells Allure. In other words, if the birth time is incorrect, your entire astrological cosmology will be inaccurate, and that's obviously a bummer. The language of the houses. When you look at your chart for the very first time, it's hard to know exactly where to direct your focus. There are certain areas that are filled with symbols, while others are entirely empty. Which way is up? Which is down? And what do those symbols mean? To get started, you first need to find your anchor, the ascendant. Also known as the rising sign. The ascendant is the furthest left point of the central horizon line and quite literally reveals which zodiac sign was emerging from the eastern horizon at your exact moment of birth. While the sun exposes our truth and the moon reflects our emotions, the ascendant reveals major themes we will encounter throughout our life. For instance, communication will be a central theme in the life of a Gemini ascendant, whereas innovation, progress, and nonconformity will define an Aquarius ascendant's experience. The ascendant also is the mask one wears for the world, the image often portrayed through social media. The ascendant also reveals the chart's ruling planet. Someone with a Sagittarius ascendant, for instance, is ruled by generous Jupiter, whereas a Pisces ascendant is living in an empathetic Neptunian world. We use the ascendant not only to gauge our individual terrain, but also to create the chart's distinctive architecture. Birth charts are read counterclockwise with the ascendant's horizontal line delineating the first house. We follow the sections, or houses, and on the right side of the horizon line at the descendant, we start to make our way to the top of the chart. Finally, we conclude the cycle with the 12th house, the section that borders the ascendant to the north. Once we identify the way each planet and sign work together, we look to the houses to discover exactly where that energy is manifesting. As you trace your birth chart, you may find that you have many planets in certain houses. In fact, 4 or more planets in a single house is called a stellium, while others may be completely empty. That's absolutely normal. The birth chart is simply a snapshot of the sky at your moment of birth, and since most celestial bodies travel in clusters, they often stay close together. While the empty areas don't signify deficiencies, the locations of the planets do reveal important information. Interpreting the houses in your own birth chart. After you've anchored yourself at the ascendant, you can begin to identify which houses the planets occupy in your birth chart. To begin this process, think of each planet's specific function. For example, Mercury is a messenger, Venus is a matchmaker, and Mars is a warrior. The way in which the planet operates, however, is influenced by its zodiac sign. Mercury in Sirius Capricorn, for instance, will communicate logically and rationally. Venus in elusive Scorpio adores mysterious romance. Mars in protective Cancer tends to have an indirect approach to battle, and so on. Once we identify the way each planet and sign work together, we look to the houses to discover exactly where that energy is manifesting. Is Venus Scorpio in the second house of material objects, which would make an individual especially drawn to financially stable lovers? Or is Venus Scorpio in the ninth house of travel, which would signify a penchant for long-distance romance? The planets within the houses reveal the full scope of our experience and the nuances of our personality. Although our natal planets in the birth chart remain stationary, the planets in the sky are constantly moving across our different houses. Each planet has its own orbit, but since we follow the sun's 365-day cycle, we go through a complete solar cycle of all the houses every year. In other words, everyone will experience the energies of each house throughout their life. Even if you aren't a Cancer, because Cancer is associated with the fourth house of home and family, at some point, these areas of life would command your attention. Now that you understand the importance of the houses in astrology, let's delve into each one. The first house of self. Defined by the ascendant, the first house defines you. It represents the body you were born with, your physical appearance, and your general temperament. Natal planets that occupy the first house tend to have a very strong influence in that person's life. For instance, Mercury in the first house is a sign of a chatterbox, while the moon in the first house reveals someone who wears emotions on their sleeve. Since this is the first stop in the cycle, when planets in the sky transit into this house, our goals are manifested, and new projects, ideas, or perspectives finally take form. This house corresponds with Aries energy, the second house of possessions. The second house is related to our personal finances, material possessions, and the concept of value. While it does rule money, it also covers our emotions, which live inside of us, and often affect us even more than money does. Natal planets in the second house tend to seek security through their material world. Planets transiting the second house reveal changes in resources or self-esteem. This house corresponds with Taurus energy, the third house of communication. Communication, transportation, and local community are all governed by the third house. Natal planets in the third house are motivated by expression and often help guide you to build close relationships with their peers, including siblings, co-workers, and classmates. Communication is the solution to most problems and the basis of all successful relationships, so make sure to honor and nurture this sector of your chart. When planets transit the third house, we often receive important information about our immediate network. This house corresponds with Gemini energy, the fourth house of home and family. The fourth house sits at the base of the chart and symbolizes home and family. Natal planets in the fourth house reveal an individual's relationship with the maternal figure, as well as their unique outlook on domesticity. Planets moving across the fourth house often encourage us to invest in our infrastructure by creating more private, nurturing spaces that make us feel safe, loved, and cared for. The fourth house also rules your relationships with people and pets, who are family, either blood or chosen. This house corresponds with Cancer energy, the fifth house of pleasure. This playful zone of the fifth house is linked to creativity, romance, and children. Natal planets in the fifth house are linked to your intrinsic artistic expression, while planets transiting the fifth house often deliver eureka moments that boost our confidence. The fifth house is all about what makes you feel good, whether it's orgasms, attention, or the fulfilling work of a creative project. This house corresponds with Leo energy, the sixth house of health. The sixth house corresponds with health, wellness, and daily routines, including odd jobs. Where the body you're born with exists in the first house, the choices made over a lifetime create the body found in your sixth house. Naturally, our environment and life choices affect our health, such as self-care, having a good work-life balance, and whether you spend enough or too much time in the sun. So let this house remind you to pay attention to your physical and mental well-being. Those with natal planets in this zone are often fueled by organization and structure and tend to focus on time and calendar management. Planets transiting the sixth house help us form habits and redefine our schedules. This house corresponds with Virgo energy, the seventh house of partnership. The seventh house, the descendant, sits directly across from the first house ascendant and represents life-changing partnerships. Up until now, all the houses have explored an individual's immediate world, their money, home, and friends. In the seventh house, however, the concept of perspective is introduced. Simply put, the seventh house symbolizes your cosmic plus one. And yes, that refers to romantic partners, as well as other important relationships in your life. Those with natal planets in the seventh house tend to be very focused on relationships, gravitating towards partnership in all areas of life. Planets moving through the seventh house help us close deals, securing our bonds by signing contracts and making things official. This house corresponds with Libra energy, the eighth house of sex, death, and transformation. What do sex, death, and transformation have to do with one another? Well, they're all animalistic instincts. Those with natal planets in the eighth house are often attracted to supernatural or occult topics, have intense romances, and will likely go through several fabulous makeovers within their lifetime. The eighth house reminds us that it's okay to give in to our desires. We're going to die one day after all, but to always be adaptable and ready to let go of the past to make room for the present and future. Planets transiting this area help us understand the underbelly of any situation and serve as a reminder of life's complexities. This house corresponds with Scorpio energy, the ninth house of philosophy. Travel, philosophy, and higher education all define the ninth house. In medieval astrology, this region was linked to places and people outside of your village. Now, we interpret this area as both literal and intellectual exploration. Those born with natal planets in the ninth house are extremely curious and inquisitive, with deep-rooted wanderlust. When planets move across the ninth house, we often begin studying a new topic, move to a foreign location, or adopt a completely different perspective. The ninth house encourages you to keep an open mind and be willing to learn new things as your world changes and expands. This house corresponds with Sagittarius energy, the 10th house of social status. The 10th house, located at the very top of the birth chart, is the apex of your unique story, and yes, is basically the house of popularity. The 10th house also governs public image, professional aspirations, and career achievements. Natal planets in the 10th house reveal an ambitious individual, and changes in the profession often occur when planets transit this zone. This house corresponds with Capricorn energy, the 11th house of friendship. As the houses begin their descent, the 11th house helps us remember the purpose of our hard work and with who we share the joy of our accomplishments. The 11th house is linked to humanitarian pursuits, as well as our personal network. This covers our dear friends and support system who help keep us moving forward. Technology and innovation also exist within this zone, so those born with planets in the 11th house are often defined by their revolutionary ideas. Transiting planets through this domain help us broaden our reach as we define our role within society. This house corresponds with Aquarius energy, the 12th house of the unconscious. In the sky, the 12th house exists just beneath the horizon. It's quite literally the darkness before dawn. Likewise, the 12th house is considered the unseen realm and governs all things that exist without physical forms, like dreams, secrets, and emotions. Those born with planets in the 12th house are often highly intuitive, perhaps even psychic. We attract karmic people into our lives when planets transit the 12th house. But during this time, we must also remember that not all relationships are meant to last. This house corresponds with Pisces energy. Whether you're an astrology devotee or a casual observer, you're probably familiar with sun signs and horoscopes. But what would you say if someone asked what zodiac sign resides in your 8th house? Houses are kind of a big deal in astrology, but we aren't talking about the ones with roofs and walls. These houses contain zodiac signs and planets that can tell you more about your personality and relationships, according to the stars. If you're newer to astrology, you might not know what it means when your horoscope forewarns of an eclipse in your 2nd house of value and possessions, and that's okay. Keep reading for a crash course on the 12 major houses in astrology that will take your understanding of the zodiac to the next level. What does house mean in astrology? In astrology, each person has a sun sign, the sign you use to check your horoscope, which you can find in this chart below. This sign denotes where the sun was at the time of your birth and based on the zodiac. Each person also has what's known as an astrological birth chart, which includes different zodiac signs, planets, and constellations that help astrologers learn more about them. A birth chart is drawn as a 360-degree wheel that's divided into 12 houses or sections. At the exact time of your birth, each planet and constellation in the zodiac was located inside a specific house or section of this wheel. Astrologers believe that knowing these placements can give you more insight into the ways astrology influences key parts of your life, like your health, career, or relationships. How do zodiac signs relate to the houses? To understand houses, you also need to know that each person has an ascendant or rising sign. This is the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the exact time of your birth. In your birth chart, the ascendant sign is present on the cusp or edge of the first house, and that placement determines the location of every other planet, sign, and constellation in your personal chart. Your ascendant sign and its related house can offer clues about your outward expression and how you relate to others. In fact, the first 6 astrological houses are known to astrologers as the personal houses, the ones that help you learn all about yourself and how you relate to the world, while houses 7 through 12 are typically viewed as the interpersonal houses. Watch this slide and find your date of birth accordingly. If you people show your interest in the comment box, I will prepare more videos and details explaining each house, and also tell you according to your date of birth, who are you, means what qualities and weakness you have in your personality. But your subscriptions will boost my energies. Thanks for watching, take care, and have peace in your life.